I have been watching Vaush debate recently, and I've been observing his mannerisms, styles, and customs. I cannot help but notice that much of what he has to say is reflective of a former self, whom I used to be more familiar with. That is, of course, to say that I find him similar in mindset to myself, and it is strange to watch from such a temporal distance. He reminds me of myself in many respects, but shorter, plumper, and surprisingly more arrogant. He makes proposals for his ideal system, much of which I was a former advocate for. I am now a free market advocate. Yet he has little understanding of markets or economics in general. His advocating for worker-owned cooperatives is truly illogical. There is no mechanism which prevents worker-owned cooperatives within any free market system, even in an imperfect free market such as the United States. If worker-owned cooperatives were as successful as he claims, why are there not more of them? Shouldn't they be capable of out-competing other methods of ownership and production? Any claims that cronyism would prevent this and favor private enterprise is disingenuous, for worker cooperatives, being so much more successful as he claims, would be overruled by the fact that these power entities could, too, engage in such corporate cronyism. We know that this is possible because this, too, occurs through union models of leadership and political intervention. Many political campaigns use the collectivity, quote, powers of unions to gain support both financially and as a voting bloc. How does he retort these? He essentially ignores them and throws up his clasped palms and prays to the sky for salvation and redemption. He just deflects or changes the topic. His point, however, is seemingly irredeemable, as he himself is not willing to convert his own business into a worker-owned cooperative. If you are what you eat, Vaush is a lard lubricated rhetoric smothered in faith-based articulation governed by disingenuously based arguments for power and a deep disrespect for truth. As for his disregard for the truth, he will not engage points which bring to question his faith in his socialist ideal. Clearly, he is the kind to wish for perfection of man, despite his own lack of perceivable progress, for an Adonis he is not. How can he respond to this? Derision? Contempt? Resentment? Pick all three and more, for there is no end to his personal grievance. Someone in his position must continue along the tagline that the personal is the political, to which he will either ascribe to or not. If he ascribes to it, the most likely claim, then he would take anything personally, and should expect all of such to be political. So where does his politics lie? He is underachieving and poorly read. He is uncharitable and ungenerous, pseudo-intellectual, bounded by thin strings of rhetorical polymerized goo, characterized by poorly acted out emotional outbursts, poorly played up anger, and poorly formed logic, as intellectually rigorous as Harold and the Purple Crayon meets Wile E. Coyote. Vaush is attempting to climb a ladder, and through the power of the wallets of his fellow resentful Pseuds, who support him financially, he baits more competent commentators into his slimy polymers, promising a genuine conversation, when the best you will get is a man who refuses to be cornered on his own beliefs, and yells like a banshee to escape, finger hovering over the big red button like a suicide bomber ready to take everyone down with him. Perhaps his former screen name would have been more appropriate than his current one, which was Irish Laddie. There is an equation which pits truth against power, and as with this equation, one can establish a genuine actor versus one who is disingenuous. Under this measure, Vaush fits under the cause of power against truth. Such types of people see truth only as useful if it is useful for the attainment of power, and therefore care not for truth except rhetorically. He who seeks the truth, however, cares nothing for power. This is not evident in his works, and so must be called what it is, rhetoric and propaganda for the sake of power. It must be asked, what power is he seeking, and for what purpose does he seek it? Claiming to be for the good and against bad is nonsense, for each and every one of us is the protagonist in our own narrative. But who is his antagonist? What will he seek to destroy with his power once he has it? Who must be eliminated in his view? When will they be eliminated? Is his war against people or ideas? Can he ever hope to eliminate ideas themselves? What sort of world would that look like? What would he seem to do? What would he seem to like to do such a thing? And under what justification can he hope to begin to stop his persecution? It is not exactly obvious as to why or how he would stop, and so the ultimate cause is lost. Not only that, but he is the exact specimen of a basement-dwelling, resentful man bun in tow, out of shape, deeply resentful. Does he not realize who his true antagonist is? Himself. Vaush's claims to aim for the values of the Enlightenment are also a complete failure of comprehension. Equality does not mean equity, it means political equality, but even then it is not more than an ideal. The claim that political equality can only be achieved through economic equality is a red herring. It is a pointless goal to attempt, and an impossible goal to achieve. There is no equality between individuals, for each person is different. There are multitudes of various pursuits which one can engage within, and to claim each person is equally suited to each pursuit is absolute madness. Some pursuits have much greater effect on people, society, and the world, and so garner greater demand for such pursuits. You will not attract the most talented people to those pursuits if it makes no difference if they do that or something completely non-impactful. Not to mention that any form of forced equity would involve a double-edged sword against liberty and fraternity. For every forced equity outcome, you will force someone down as well as someone up, but both against their own will and capacity, and both to a systemic loss overall. For to reward failure and incompetence is to openly invite it in, as well as to punish success and rigor, forming nothing but a system based on fragility and weakness. Towards fraternity, too, the sword of equity will slice, cutting people off from each other and setting them unjustly against one another. Perhaps that is Vaush's veiled goal after all. It is either that or he is just as uninformed as I posited earlier. I would pit myself against him on my very worst Monday morning, while he is having his best day ever. And it would be like a parent scolding an adult. I bet that Pseud hasn't even read Human Action and understood a damned word of it. There would be little honor in such an enterprise save for the hope of deconverting all his fellow jihadis from their suicide mission. If you see this, Vaush, I'm calling you out. You can email me at dostoyevskyclub@gmail.com. Nothing personal, kid.